Chapter 537. One of Brest's four supreme geniuses, a young man with short blonde hair and a gentle smile on his face, blurred into motion and appeared in the center of the arena. A glint flashed across the young man's eyes. The gentleness on his body disappeared completely, replaced by confidence and dominance. Almas of the Eye of the Dragon from the Brest dynasty of the Western world is here to fight you. The beautiful and sexy Katrina, one of Brest's four supreme geniuses, raised her slim eyebrows and asked the handsome young man Kresno, who exuded a sacred and powerful aura, "Almas, do you think he can win against Yang Feng?" Kresno was the strongest genius in the Starry Sky Warlock realm in the Hall of Eternity, as well as the publicly recognized #1 genius of Brest dynasty. His strength was unfathomable and extremely powerful. Kresno replied indifferently, "He has no chance of winning. Yang Feng was too strong. He defeated Angelico head-on. So Almas has no chance of winning against him. However, as long as he can force Yang Feng to use a few more trump cards, then I'll have a better chance of winning against Yang Feng." In a fight between warlocks, information was the most important thing. After hundreds of thousands of years of research, many spells that were almost unsolvable in the past were now nothing. If it was before the Third Warlock dynasty, human warlocks of the same realm would not be a match for extraordinary life forms proficient in manipulating spatial force. However, ever since spatial disorder spells were developed, extraordinary life forms proficient in spatial force were no longer the opponents of human warlocks. There was once a time when elemental warlocks relied on the destructive power of elemental spells to run amok and were virtually invincible. But once the magic suppression array was developed, elemental warlocks were firmly restrained by the magic suppression array and eventually became ordinary warlocks. Interesting, let's go. Yang Feng showed a smile and operated the battle demon's secret method, and a white battle demon armor instantly covered his whole body. At the same time, he pinched the ruler magic cube and equipped himself with the ruler armor. A solemn look flashed in Almas's eyes as he took out a level 6 artifact Thunder Dragon Pearl inscribed with countless dragon curse seals and swallowed it. Resplendent bolts of lightning flashed, and Almas' body twisted and contorted. Countless azure scales grew on his body, and 2 dragon horns grew on his head. His body swelled up, and his face contorted into that of a dinosaur. A azure dragon tail grew from his back, and a pair of azure dragon wings sprouted from his back. After the transformation, advanced moonlight warlock rank life force field spread from the thunder dragonborn Almas, and his eyes flickered with the light of wisdom of human warlocks. Lightning dragon men, they are the fiercest, evilest, and strongest dragon men who have grasped the law of lightning. Although his power is slightly weaker than the giant dragons of the same level, he is born with the ability to control lightning. He has the bloodline of the primordial dragon, the primordial thunder dragon. Even among the dragon species, he is the most terrifying existence. It's a thunder dragon man. It was a monster that possessed the initial bloodline of the thunder dragon, as expected of the strongest genius of the dragon's eye. After seeing Almas transform into a thunder dragon man, the warlock geniuses present inhaled a breath of cold air. Whether it was the supreme geniuses from the Eastern world or the Western world, a dignified look streaked past their eyes as they stared at Almas. Primordial dragons were terrifying existences that could contend against warlock emperors. They were also powerful warlock emperor rank existences. Extraordinary life forms with primordial dragon bloodline were despairingly powerful. Thunder dragon men were monsters with primordial dragon bloodline, and they were terrifyingly powerful. No one had expected Almas to transform into such a terrifying being. If the ancient gold dragon that Achilles had transformed into were to fight against the thunder dragon man that Almas had transformed into, he would be instantly killed by Almas thunder dragon man. Yang Feng glanced at Almas and felt a trace of world force, and then said, "Virtual world, Almas, you formed a virtual world as well." That's right. Monsters like thunder dragon men consume a tremendous amount of life force for every breath of time they exist. If I hadn't formed a virtual world, I wouldn't have been able to transform into this strongest, fiercest, and most evil thunder dragon man. Yang Feng, I'm going to attack. Be careful, don't die. Almas's eyes shone with lightning, and countless bolts of lightning coiled around him and issued crackling sounds, making him look like a god of thunder controlling endless lightning. Along with flashes of lightning, Almas instantly appeared in front of Yang Feng like a bolt of lightning and sent a fist covered in endless lightning and thunder barreling towards Yang Feng, as if the god of thunder had descended to the mortal world. Lightning flashed, and the air around Yang Feng distorted. Even if it was an advanced moonlight warlock, they would be electrocuted by lightning containing the law of lightning, and their fleshly body would collapse and their soul would tremble. Faced with the frightening strike of the god of thunder, Yang Feng's figure fluttered slightly, and his fist containing the law of power crushed everything and smashed the lightning into pieces, and then slammed into Almas. Boom! Along with an earth-shattering noise, Almas was sent flying like a broken rag doll and slammed into the protective wall of the arena. He spat out an arrow of blood mixed with internal organs, his bones shattered, and collapsed to the ground. Complete silence. Stunned, the warlocks from the Eastern world and the Western world almost couldn't believe their eyes. I admit defeat. With a flash of green light, Almas changed back into his human form and spat out the dragon bead. Face pale, he coughed in pain. Every time he coughed up a large amount of internal organs containing a large amount of blood. He was defeated just like that? Impossible? Almas, how could he be defeated just like that? Insta-killed? That's Almas, the #1 Starry Sky warlock genius of the Eye of Dragon. How could the hope of the Eye of Dragon, a powerhouse who formed a virtual world, be defeated by a punch from Yang Feng? As if coming to life, the warlocks from the Western world around the grand arena discussed spiritedly, their words filled with incredulity. Almas was the #1 Starry Sky warlock genius of the Eye of Dragon, a warlock group of the Breast dynasty that was several notches stronger than the Battle Demon sect. In the Western world, he was extremely famous, and countless supreme geniuses were defeated by him. The only person who defeated him was the #1 genius of the Breast dynasty's younger generation, Kresno. For such a peerless genius to be defeated by a punch from Yang Feng, it was natural that the warlocks from the Western world were unwilling to believe this fact. Staring at Yang Feng, Yuanyang clenched his fists, and despair welled up inside him. So strong. He's much stronger than before. I've been making progress all these years, but his progress is much greater than mine. Since his defeat at Yang Feng's hands, Yuanyang has devoted all his attention to cultivation. With his identity as the Tai sect's holy son, he can get countless resources from the Tai sect. Coupled with his freakish genius status, his cultivation speed has been astonishing in the past few years. Originally, Yuanyang planned to defeat Yang Feng in one fell swoop in the Time Sky City Competition Assembly and regain all his glory. However, he was defeated by Angelico first, and then Almas, whose strength was on par with his, was insta-killed by Yang Feng. This huge gap almost made him despair. Almas took a deep look at Yang Feng dressed in the ruler armor, coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood, and squeezed out a smile. What a powerful secret treasure. I've learned a lot. After he finished speaking, Almas took out a vial of elixir and gulped it down. A trace of color welled up on his deathly pale face, and he walked out of the arena step by step, returning to the Breast dynasty's warlock geniuses. Who else dares to fight me? In the arena, Yang Feng swept the warlock geniuses of the Western world with his gaze and revealed a scorching fighting spirit. The 11 supreme geniuses from the Western world frowned slightly and fell into silence. The warlock geniuses from the Western world focused their attention on the 11 supreme geniuses, looking forward to them showing their might and defeating Yang Feng. Vaguely, the original contest of willpower has turned into a contest of strength between the warlocks from the Western world and the Eastern world. The warlocks from the Western world were originally fighting each other in secret, with no one willing to submit to the other. But under the strong pressure from Yang Feng, they vaguely came to a tacit understanding. Katrina's figure fluttered, and she appeared in the arena and said heroically, "The Western world's Breast dynasty's Hall of Eternity's holy daughter Katrina will fight you." "Katrina, you can do it." "Katrina, I love you. When the warlocks from the Western world saw Katrina, they burst into cheers at once. The peerlessly beautiful and heroic Katrina is a goddess in the minds of many warlock geniuses in the Western world. Even many female warlocks from the Western world who are full of jealousy of Katrina voiced heartfelt cheers. As soon as Katrina entered the arena, she waved her lily-white hand, and a magic mirror engraved with countless mysterious runes appeared in her hand. Wind, fire, water, and earth elemental particles diffused around her, and a trace of world force poured into the magic mirror in her hand. Chapter 5:38. Katrina pointed the magic mirror at Yang Feng, and a resplendent light gushed out of the magic mirror and enveloped the arena in an instant. A powerhouse who formed a virtual world. A dignified look in his eyes, Yang Feng silently recited an incantation, and defensive magic shields instantly appeared around him. The defensive strength of the battle demon armor and the ruler armor formed from the battle demon secret method was astonishing. No matter what kind of offensive spells it was, they could resist and weaken them. However, in the face of unknown spells, Yang Feng still followed the fighting style of warlocks and first enchanted himself with various defensive spells. Katrina was a peerless powerhouse who formed a virtual world. Even someone as strong as Yang Feng didn't dare to be careless. Warlocks had a wide variety of methods of fighting, and there were many cases of the weak defeating the strong. When the resplendent light enveloped the arena, Yang Feng's vision blurred, and he appeared in a twisted and blurry world where he couldn't distinguish between north, south, east, and west. In that strange world where one couldn't tell north from south, there were strange statues everywhere. These statues were engraved with angels, dragons, demons, vampires, demons, and other strange existences. Traces of distorted and strange auras permeated from these statues. Is this an illusion or a banishment to another plane? If it was a banishment to another plane, then there should have been spatial fluctuations just now. In that case, it should be an illusion, and a very fearsome high-level illusion at that. Yang Feng's eyes flashed brightly and he looked at the strange world. Everywhere he looked, he could see strange, nauseating, and headache-inducing scenes. Every time a warlock advanced to a higher realm, their physique would continue to strengthen. After Yang Feng cultivated the primal chaos imperishable body, the strength of his fleshly body was comparable to that of a glorious dawn warlock. As if blessed with the spell eyes of truth, his eyes could see through all kinds of illusions. But in his eyes, the world seemed real. If it were an ordinary warlock, they would have fallen into chaos. The queer statues squirmed, and angels, dragons, fiends, kindred, hellions, and all kinds of extraordinary life forms exuding starry sky warlock rank auras crawled out of the statues. Ferocious and ruthless auras diffused from them, and fierce gazes locked on Yang Feng. When the queer extraordinary life forms crawled out of the statues, they immediately rushed towards Yang Feng with tyrannical auras. 7 absolute heavenly flames. Yang Feng pointed with a finger, and a blue 7-color skyfire suddenly appeared and turned into a violent storm of fire that engulfed the strange extraordinary life forms. In that powerful illusion, if one was killed in the illusion, then the victim would think that they were already dead and would die in the illusion. Therefore, Yang Feng couldn't let those weird extraordinary life forms tear him apart. After the weird extraordinary life forms were burned to ashes by Yang Feng's 7 absolute heavenly flames, mysterious runes suddenly lit up in the remains of the extraordinary life forms. The weird extraordinary life forms were suddenly reborn in the 7 absolute heavenly flames. At the same time, they frantically absorbed the power of the 7 absolute heavenly flames and reconstructed their bodies. Yang Feng looked at the freaks reborn in the 7 absolute heavenly flames with a dignified look in his eyes. What an amazing illusion! If you haven't cultivated a spell that specifically restrains illusions, then once you are enveloped by this illusion, even quasi-glorious dawn warlocks will be exhausted to death. Even quasi-glorious dawn warlocks will be exhausted to death. This kind of highly targeted illusion may even have a great effect on glorious sun warlock rank freaks who have no resistance to illusions. If I hadn't learned a secret method to resist illusions, then I'm afraid that I would have been defeated by her. Transcendent pupils. Yang Feng's eyes constricted, and runes appeared in his pupils and formed two transcendent pupils made from gold runes and exuding an inhuman aura. As soon as the transcendent pupils took shape, a tremendous amount of life force inside Yang Feng poured into the transcendent pupils. A vast and boundless terrifying aura that seemed to be able to suppress the four corners of the world spread out from the eyes of the demon god. The extraordinary life forms rushing towards Yang Feng twisted, and then strangely shattered and decomposed into particles of light that collapsed inch by inch. Illuminated by the light of the transcendent pupils, the weird world collapsed inch by inch. I won't lose. In the arena, Katrina's beautiful eyes shimmered with an unyielding gleam. She silently recited an incantation, opened her mouth, and sprayed a stream of blood essence on the magic mirror in her hand. After the magic mirror in Katrina's hand absorbed her blood essence, it set off ripples, and released even more powerful light that enveloped Yang Feng. The weird world that trapped Yang Feng collapsed, and Yang Feng appeared in the arena and faced Katrina. Katrina smiled sweetly, like 100 flowers blooming, beautiful beyond compare. I lost. Yang Feng, you're really amazing. Let's be friends. Yang Feng slowly retracted the transcendent pupils and uttered with a smile, okay. The showdown between the warlocks of the Eastern world and the Western world came to an end. Shortly after, the Time Sky City competition assembly officially began. Yang Feng, who was extremely dazzling in the Time Sky City competition assembly, joined forces with Katrina, experienced countless storms, and finally obtained several keys of time. After Yang Feng and Katrina entered the Time Sky City, they adventured together, experienced countless storms, and came to the Time Sky Pillar to comprehend secret methods. After the Time Sky City competition assembly ended, Yang Feng and Katrina traveled the world together, and the relationship between them grew stronger every day. With each passing day, Yang Feng's admiration for Katrina increased by a notch. Gradually, his rock-solid mind, which seems to be completely unshakable by external things, began to soften, and he immersed himself in Katrina's gentleness. Humph! No matter how strong you are, no matter how amazing your battle prowess is, in my goddess of love fantasy, you'll slowly sink. Everyone has the desire to pursue love and happiness in their hearts. You'll eventually become a slave of my love in the goddess of love fantasy. With such a top-notch slave of love, even Kresno won't be my opponent in the future. In the future, the entire Hall of Eternity will be in my pocket. In the arena, the corners of Katrina's mouth rose slightly, and her beautiful eyes revealed a look of excitement. The goddess of love fantasy is a strange secret method Katrina obtained after exploring an ancient warlock relic site. Once the target is captured by the goddess of love fantasy, without casting a secret method to resist the illusion, they'll gradually sink into the beautiful fantasy and eventually become a slave of the caster's love. Once the target becomes a slave of the caster's love, the target's body and mind will be lost, and they'll be unable to extricate themselves. Even if the target comes out of the fantasy, they'll love the caster wholeheartedly, dig out their heart for the caster, and never betray the caster. Even if the target's strength was much higher than the caster's by a few levels, the target would not be at a disadvantage to the caster. Because it's a love born from the depths of the target's heart that is distorted by the illusion. After the fantasy ends, the spell disappears. Without any traces of the spell, it naturally can't be broken. From the ancient warlock relic site, Katrina learned that the master of the warlock relic site once used the goddess of love fantasy to deal with a warlock genius. That warlock genius eventually became a warlock monarch rank powerhouse, yet he still submitted to her. The master of the warlock relic site, on the other hand, only had a glorious dawn warlock rank cultivation base. This was the terror of the goddess of love fantasy. Kresno has a special bloodline and a formidable mind. Besides, he cultivates a powerful secret method that can contend against the goddess of love fantasy. Katrina doesn't dare to cast this secret method on him, for fear of suffering a backlash. Yang Feng, on the other hand, is just an ordinary person, and is restrained by this spell. Coupled with Yang Feng's formidable strength and extraordinary talent, she chose to cast the goddess of love fantasy on Yang Feng. In the goddess of love fantasy, Yang Feng has already married Katrina. He has been completely captivated by Katrina's charm. He's only one step away from becoming a slave of her love. In the fantasy, Katrina's beautiful eyes sparkled with anticipation, a fragrance wafting from her, and she asked tenderly, "Yang Feng, do you love me?" Yang Feng's tiger-like eyes blossomed with tenderness, and he replied resolutely, "I do." Katrina asked coquettishly as if she was his lover, "Can you die for me?" Yang Feng's heart trembled slightly, and he wanted to answer. But he vaguely felt a little uncomfortable, as if something bad will happen if he answers. Katrina's beautiful eyes sparkled with anticipation, and she said coquettishly, "Answer me." Yang Feng hesitated for a while. Strange fluctuations came from afar. "Wake up. I am Yang Feng. Wake up. I am Yang Feng. I am Yang Feng." Voices that seemed to come from afar reverberated in Yang Feng's sea of knowledge. On the Feisua plain, within Yang Feng's divine country, Yang Feng's god clone is sitting upright in his divine country. His eyes shone with light, his godhead operated, and he frantically burned divine force crystals, and he roared through the laws of the nether. The goddess of love fantasy secret method was extremely strange. Yang Feng had never seen such a strange secret method. He almost fell into the trap of this secret method. However, Katrina missed one point, and that is, Yang Feng has a very powerful clone, which is a god with far more battle prowess than Moonlight Warlocks. Chapter 539. Gods possessed divinity that transcended mortals and were immune to many spells. Although the goddess of love fantasy has an effect on Yang Feng's true body, but it has no effect on his god clone. Listening to the continuously reverberating voices, Yang Feng, who was almost blinded by love, finally surged with a trace of clarity. His mind moved slightly, and he saw the countless messages sent by the optical computer that he had previously ignored. What a beautiful dream! However, it's over now. I am Yang Feng, this is a fantasy. Countless runes appeared in Yang Feng's eyes, and the transcendent pupils radiated resplendent light that enveloped the fantasy world. 30 seconds later, the seemingly flawless illusory world began to slowly collapse. It collapsed. My goddess of love fantasy actually collapsed. How is this possible? How could this be? Katrina watched as the goddess of love fantasy collapsed inch by inch, and her beautiful eyes surged with horror. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence that entered the goddess of love magic mirror in her hand. The goddess of love fantasy is an extremely powerful and queer secret method. Once the target is completely immersed in it, in theory, even if they practice cultivation until the Holy Spirit Warlock realm, they will be completely devoted to the caster, unable to extricate themselves from love forever. However, once the goddess of love fantasy is broken, the caster will suffer a backlash and become a love slave of the target, unable to be dispelled forever. The goddess of love magic mirror burst out with queer light that enveloped the world that has begun to collapse. Yang Feng, I love you. Why do you do this to me? In the goddess of love fantasy, Katrina collapsed on the ground, looking pitifully at Yang Feng with grief. Blood dripped from her cherry lips, a heart-wrenching sight. When Yang Feng saw Katrina's pitiful and miserable figure, his heart ached, and he couldn't bear to see her like this. A strange light silently gushed out of the world, hit Yang Feng, and blinded his eyes, and the pair of transcendent pupils slowly disappeared. The eyes of the demon god was a secret technique that could destroy countless illusions. However, if one wanted to cultivate this secret technique to the grand completion realm, they would need to consume countless resources, suppress countless gods and devils, and extract their power. Only then would they be able to cultivate this secret technique to the point where they could destroy countless illusions with a single glance. If it was the great completion transcendent pupils, Yang Feng would have been able to break all illusions the moment he opened the transcendent pupils, and he wouldn't have fallen into the goddess of love fantasy. However, the demonic god's eye that had not reached the large success stage would still be confused by all kinds of top-notch illusions. The goddess of love fantasy was one of the top illusions, and its power was extraordinary. Even if a Holy Spirit warlock rank existence was confused by the goddess of love fantasy, they would be captured by the illusion, unable to break free from it. Although the transcendent pupils could restrain this top-notch illusion, but Yang Feng spent too little time on the transcendent pupils and didn't cultivate this secret method to the great completion realm. As such, it was naturally difficult for him to resist the goddess of love fantasy that Katrina exerted all her strength and cast with the help of the secret treasure goddess of love magic mirror. Wake up! At this moment, Yang Feng's god clone in the Feisua plane burned divine force crystals and barked. The voice of Yang Feng's clone reverberated in the sea of knowledge of Yang Feng's true body and forcibly pulled Yang Feng, who was about to be pulled into the goddess of love fantasy. Transcendent pupils. As soon as Yang Feng regained consciousness, he frantically extracted a tremendous amount of world force from the small world inside him and poured it into the transcendent pupils. The transcendent pupils burst out with dazzling light and enveloped the goddess of love fantasy. No, don't. I beg you, stop. In the goddess of love fantasy, Katrina let out a series of heart-wrenching wails. Every part of her charming body burst open, and a copious amount of blood sprayed out, looking extremely miserable. Faced with Katrina's pleas, Yang Feng remained unmoved. With an indifferent look in his eyes, he urged the gold light to fall on the world, causing it to collapse. After a dozen-plus breaths of time, the world of the goddess of love fantasy finally collapsed completely, revealing the arena. On the other side of the arena, Katrina's face was pale. Holding the goddess of love magic mirror, her delicate body trembled, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with endless fear. In the next moment, a transparent and colorless rune flew out of the goddess of love magic mirror and landed on Katrina's forehead, causing her delicate body to sway slightly, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with a misty shade. After Yang Feng broke free from the goddess of love fantasy, he still operated the transcendent pupils, and queer light swept in all directions. The goddess of love fantasy was so queer that it made Yang Feng apprehensive. This queer power once again let Yang Feng experience how dangerous and frightening the various powerful spells of the world of warlocks were. I concede. Katrina's eyes were lifeless and empty, as if her soul was sucked away. Her delicate body fluttered, and she walked out of the arena practically step by step. Kresno frowned slightly and made a gesture. The figure of a beautiful warlock from the Hall of Eternity flickered, and she arrived beside Katrina. She took Katrina out of the arena and left the lobby. After Katrina left, Yang Feng released a dozen-plus detection spells on himself, operated the transcendent pupils to carefully scan his state, and looked at the information sent by the smart chip. Only then did he confirm that he was in the real world. He took a deep breath, took out a few precious elixirs and downed them. In terms of strength alone, Katrina was far inferior to Almas. However, the goddess of love fantasy was queer and extraordinary. In order to break this queer fantasy, Yang Feng consumed dozens of times more life force than he consumed to defeat Almas. After Yang Feng drank the elixirs and recovered a little, his eyes shimmered brightly, and he looked at the warlocks from the Western world and asked calmly, "Who else dares to fight me?" The gazes of the warlocks from the Western world focused on the supreme geniuses who didn't fight Yang Feng. Kresno frowned slightly, and then, like a statue, remained silent. No matter how the gazes fell on him, he didn't have any intention of fighting. Hey, a bunch of cowards. They don't even have the courage to fight. What a bunch of trash. Among the four supreme geniuses of the Catered dynasty, the black man with an unruly expression smiled coldly, then blurred into motion, turned into a black ray, and entered the arena. The black man showed an unruly smile to Yang Feng and said, "All of the Catered dynasty's Dark Judgment is here to fight you." The Dark Judgment was one of the most powerful forces in the Catered dynasty. In the Catered dynasty, the Dark Judgment Warlock group has shown signs of slowly surpassing the Hall of Immortality in recent years. The Hall of Immortality once gave birth to the Warlock Emperor, the Dawn Lord. At that time, when the Dawn Lord still dominated the world, the Hall of Immortality was one of the most powerful warlock groups in the world. After the fall of the King of Dawn, the Hall of Immortality started to decline from its peak. After several major disturbances, the Hall of Immortality began to decline even more, and gradually lost control of the catered dynasty. The Dark Judgment and many other warlock groups in the catered dynasty were originally controlled by the Hall of Immortality and could only develop their strength in secret. But once the Hall of Immortality declined, they began to develop and grow. In the modern era, they have become a huge warlock group comparable to the Hall of Immortality. Ol's words have just fallen when he silently recited an incantation and pointed with a finger, and a level 6 secret treasure ghost skull armor engraved with countless sinister heads suddenly flew out and enveloped him. After Ol put on the ghost skull armor, sharp bone spurs pierced into his body and extracted his blood and life force. Ol's body twisted, and he turned into a 3-meter-tall evil ogre covered in the ghost skull armor, with 2 horns on his head and a red horn on his forehead, and exuding advanced moonlight warlock rank fluctuations of power. That's a red-horned evil god ogre. One of the strongest ogre. Red-horned evil god ogre, a ferocious evil ogre that feeds on other ogre evil gods. Even the dragon species and ghost species were no match for him. It's a terrifying ogre that can even fight gods. Amazing as expected of a super genius of the Dark Judgment, to be able to transform into such an ogre. The warlocks around the arena recognized at a glance how powerful the red-horned evil god ogre that Ol has transformed into is. With advanced moonlight warlock rank cultivation base, the red-horned evil god ogre can even suppress many feeble divine force rank gods. After Ol transformed into the red-horned evil god ogre, he issued a world-shaking howl, and tremendous sound waves converged and turned into a sound wave cannon barreling towards Yang Feng. Yang Feng's figure fluttered, and he rushed into the sound wave cannon like a meteor. With his tyrannical fleshly body, he forcibly penetrated the sound wave cannon, appeared in front of Ol, and slammed a fist into the abdomen of the red-horned evil god ogre that Ol has transformed into. The red-horned evil god ogre that Ol has transformed into suddenly spewed out a blood arrow, slammed into the edge of the barrier of the arena like a meteor, trembled slightly, and collapsed to the ground. I concede. After Ol spewed out a large mouthful of blood, he dispelled the red-horned evil god ogre, stared at Yang Feng with an incredulous look on his face, gnashed his teeth, and uttered, enunciating each syllable. Yang Feng's punch has shattered most of the bones of the red-horned evil god ogre that Ol has transformed into. Even though the red-horned evil god ogre's recovery ability is astonishing, but it cannot recover from its injuries and fight Yang Feng. Chapter 540. There was silence. The eyes of the warlock geniuses from the other world flickered with astonishment. The red-horned evil god ogre Ol has transformed into can suppress quasi-glorious dawn warlocks and fight gods of the same rank. Yet such a powerful existence was insta-killed by Yang Feng. Even though Almas was insta-killed by Yang Feng, but the hearts of the warlocks were still filled with shock. So strong. He's really strong. The battle demon sect's Yang Feng is so strong. After today's fight, his name will surely shake the world. Amazing. Every time the Time Sky City Competition Assembly is held, several freakish powerhouses who formed a virtual world will be born. However, the gap between the freakish powerhouses in the previous Time Sky City Competition Assembly isn't that great. This time, the gap between the freakish Yang Feng and the other freakish monsters is really too big. So strong. If he doesn't die in the future, he may become a Holy Spirit warlock. After a while, a wave of discussion broke out around the arena. Whether it was the warlocks from the Eastern world or the Western world, they looked at Yang Feng standing in the center of the arena with awe in their eyes. The eyes of the warlocks from the Western world focused on Kresno and the other supreme geniuses. Kresno and the other supreme geniuses from the Western world are silent as they quietly watched Yang Feng in the arena. They have no intention of fighting him. Ol and Almas are freakish geniuses who stood out from the trillions of people of the Western world's 3 warlock dynasties and have formed a virtual world in the Starry Sky warlock realm. With just quasi-moonlight warlock rank cultivation base, They can already display terrifying power to contend against advanced Moonlight Warlock rank powerhouses with the help of secret treasures. For Yang Feng to defeat these two freakish warlock geniuses with a single punch naturally left the supreme geniuses from the Western world apprehensive. Why isn't anyone going up? There are so many warlock geniuses from the Breast dynasty, the Bajor dynasty, and the Cater dynasty. Is there no one who has the courage to go up and fight our great Cloud dynasty's Yang Feng? Just now, all of you were flaunting your prowess here. I thought you were strong. It turns out that you're just a bunch of bullies. Do you see that? This is the strongest genius of our great Cloud dynasty. If you have the ability, go and defeat him. Just a moment ago, I don't know who said that in his eyes, Yang Feng was like a clay chicken or a pottery dog. Now that that useless person was in the arena, why didn't anyone dare to go up? The warlock geniuses of the three great dynasties only have good mouths. Mockery and ridicule came from the warlock geniuses of the great Cloud dynasty. Not long ago, after Angelico easily defeated Yuan Yang in the arena, the warlocks from the Western world ridiculed the warlocks from the great Cloud dynasty. Now that they have this opportunity, the warlocks from the great Cloud dynasty naturally won't miss it. The figure of a blonde warlock with a tall and sturdy figure shook slightly, and at once appeared in the center of the arena. The blonde, burly warlock shouted, "Western world's Breast dynasty's 5 Rings Red Tower's Culford is here to fight you." 5 Rings Red Tower was a powerful warlock group in the Breast dynasty that wasn't inferior to the Battle Demon sect. Culford was the #1 Starry Sky warlock rank genius of 5 Rings Red Tower. Yang Feng said flatly, "Please." Culford silently chanted an incantation and pointed his finger. A level 6 secret treasure, the giant skin, engraved with strange runes and made of the skin of an unknown extraordinary creature, suddenly flew out and covered his body. A queer light shone, and a 100-meter-tall giant engraved with queer runes and shrouded in a gale appeared in the arena and exuded junior Moonlight Warlock rank might. Wind giant? That's a wind giant that can manipulate wind elemental particles. Wind giants can manipulate wind elemental particles. They don't have the weakness of ordinary giants. But a mere junior Moonlight Warlock rank wind giant isn't Yang Feng's opponent. What the hell is Culford thinking? A trifling wind giant can't be that monster's opponent. When the warlocks around the arena saw Culford transform into a wind giant, they commented spiritedly. The wind giant Culford transformed into was a bit weaker than the ancient gold dragon transformed into by Achilles. Although this wind giant could defeat more than 90% of the warlock geniuses in the lobby, but compared to Yang Feng, it wasn't worth mentioning. When the wind giant completed its transformation, it was suddenly enveloped in a gale and rushed towards Yang Feng with a tyrannical aura. Too slow. The wind giant had just moved, when Yang Feng strangely appeared in front of it and slammed a fist into it. A vast and terrifying force slammed into the wind giant's abdomen in an instant, and the 100-meter-tall wind giant turned into a stream of light and slammed into the barrier of the arena. It spewed out an arrow of blood, slid down powerlessly, and collapsed on the ground, unable to budge. The wind giant dispelled its transformation and revealed Culford's human form. He coughed for a while and spewed out an arrow of blood, and then said with a pained expression, "I concede." Sure enough, he was insta-killed. It can't be helped. Yang Feng is too strong. One-on-one, apart from Almas and them, no one can withstand a full blow from him using secret treasures. The warlocks around the arena showed an, as expected, look in their eyes, and they commented spiritedly. They looked towards the 10 supreme geniuses from the Western world. For an expert who formed a virtual world like Yang Feng, taking turns to wear him down was meaningless. Unless it was an expert on par with Yang Feng, and they fought him with all their strength, Yang Feng would be injured and consume a great deal of power. Otherwise, after each battle, Yang Feng could absorb a trace of world force from the virtual world inside him and recover all his consumption. Cresno took a deep look at Yang Feng, then turned around and walked towards the interior of the Hidden Dragon Hotel. Most of the warlocks from the Breast dynasty followed Cresno into the depths of the Hidden Dragon Hotel. No matter how the warlocks from the Great Cloud dynasty provoked them, They didn't reply. Angelico took a deep look at Yang Feng, and then silently led the warlocks from the Bajor dynasty into the Hidden Dragon Hotel. The geniuses of the Catered dynasty also silently followed the 4 supreme geniuses into the depths of the Hidden Dragon Hotel. After Yang Feng saw the top supreme geniuses of the 3 warlock dynasties leave, his figure shook slightly, and he also left the arena. Except for the top supreme geniuses of the 3 warlock dynasties, the ordinary warlocks from the Western world were not Yang Feng's opponents, and defeating them was meaningless. Yang Feng, do you still remember me? Yang Feng had just returned to the demonic fighting sects camp, when a voice sounded. Yang Feng turned his head, showed a smile at once, and greeted the person enthusiastically, "Kong Feng Ao, it's you. Long time no see." At the time when Yang Feng dominated a part of the Tyrannid subcontinent, it was Kong Feng Ao who guided him to the Great Cloud Dynasty and gave him a lot of help. If Yang Feng had stayed in the Tyrannid subcontinent at that time, then his current strength would not be so formidable. Kong Feng Ao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He followed Yang Feng to the demonic fighting sect and the Bright Moon School's camp, and was introduced to the disciples of the demonic fighting sect and the Bright Moon School by Yang Feng. After Yang Feng left, many warlock geniuses from the Western world and the Eastern world started fighting in the arena. Just now, when the geniuses ridiculed and provoked each other, the warlock geniuses were extremely arrogant. After a few words, they became even angrier, and then entered the arena to exchange pointers. Without the supreme geniuses like Yang Feng, Yuan Yang, and Almas, the fights between the other warlocks did not attract much attention. In the lobby, everyone returned to their seats. The warlock geniuses of the Great Cloud Dynasty's 10 great sects and 8 great families also sat in different places according to their relationship. Yang Feng, Zhang Hanshan, Zhui Yifan, Zhou Feng, Kong Feng Ao, Wang Shulan, Zhang Ziqiao, and Zhang Tian also sat around a big table. Wang Shulan, Zhang Ziqiao, and Zhang Tian were personal disciples of the Bright Moon School's 3 great elders, and their status was the same as that of Yang Feng and the others. As for Kong Feng Ao, he originally didn't have the qualifications to sit here. But since he was Yang Feng's friend, he also obtained the qualifications. A handsome young man dressed in a white scholarly attire with his hair tied up in a bun, exuding the temperament of a descendant of an aristocratic family, walked over with a gentle smile on his face and said courteously, "I am Song Zishi, and this is my good friend Jiang Exin. I wonder if I can make the acquaintance of senior disciple brothers and sisters from the demonic fighting sect and the Bright Moon School?" Beside Song Zishi stood a peerless beauty with long black waterfall-like hair, a fiery and tender body comparable to that of Western warlocks, an extremely exquisite appearance, and the temperament of an iceberg. She was Jiang Exin, the daughter of one of the 8 great clans. Wang Shulan smiled slightly and said very enthusiastically, "So it's Song Zishi of the Song family and Jiang Exin of the Jiang family. I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance. Please take a seat." As disciples of prestigious righteous sects, Wang Shulan and the others made friends. Song Zishi and Jiang Exin were peerless geniuses of the 8 great families, so they were qualified to become friends with them. Chapter 541. 2 days later, in the center of the Time City's Hidden Dragon Temple, in a huge square that can accommodate more than 100,000 people, warlocks from the Eastern world and the Western world gathered. On a dais in the huge square, there are 12 chairs, each of which is occupied by a bright world warlock rank powerhouse. The Great Cloud Dynasty, the Breast Dynasty, the Bajor Dynasty, and the Catered Dynasty are powerful dynasties of the same rank. Even though the Great Cloud Dynasty is much stronger than any of the other 3 dynasties, but it still only has 3 chairs. Above the dais, there is a palace that is difficult to see with the naked eye suspended in the air. That is the Time City's floating palace. Inside the floating palace, there are several infinity warlocks sitting. The warlock geniuses of countless forces from the Eastern world and the Western world are gathered in the Time City. If all the warlock geniuses here die, it will be a big blow to the warlock groups from the Eastern world and the Western world. It is for this reason that the Western world and the Eastern world have sent infinity warlocks to guard this place. The Infinity Warlocks won't bat an eye no matter how many ordinary warlock geniuses die. However, the death of outrageous geniuses like Cresno and Angelico is a huge loss to a major force. With their talent, as long as they don't die, they can grow into glorious Sun Warlocks or above in the future. For a force, every glorious Sun Warlock or above powerhouse is an extremely important and precious fighting force. Many places need to be guarded by enough people in order to be completely occupied and obtain a steady stream of resources. Although Infinity Warlocks are extremely powerful, but they also have their own things to do. If it's just them, they won't be able to take care of everything and control a huge force. At noon, a bright world warlock dressed in a green warlock robe holding a huge mirror-like secret treasure in his hand silently recited an incantation and pointed it at the sky. An incomparably resplendent black light shot out from the demonic mirror, transforming into a black pillar of light that soared into the sky, straight into the clouds. As soon as the black pillar of light entered the clouds, it immediately set off waves of strange ripples in the air. A huge star suddenly appeared in the void, completely blocking the sunlight and appearing in front of everyone's eyes. Yang Feng looked at the huge celestial body in the sky, and shock welled up in his heart. How extravagant, to refine a celestial body into a venue for the battle for the key of time. Sure enough, the most powerful warlocks can pluck the stars and the moon and refine a plane. The bright world warlock in a green warlock robe silently recited an incantation, and the magic mirror in his hand suddenly released brilliant light that enveloped Yang Feng and them. Illuminated by the resplendent light, Yang Feng and his party blurred and disappeared. Yang Feng's eyes lit up, and he found himself in a world with verdant hills and limpid waters. There were all kinds of precious extraordinary plants growing everywhere, and the air was rich in life magic energy. Yang Feng stepped on the ground and exerted a bit of force, leaving a footprint on the ground. The density of this world is the same as that of the Xianxia Plains continent. The density of a world is different, and so is the power that can bear a fight between powerhouses. A subcontinent like the Tyrannid subcontinent is the least densely populated part of the Xianxia Plains continent. A fight between Infinity Warlocks is enough to split the Tyrannid subcontinent into pieces and sink it. In low-grade plains such as Grade 9 plains, battles between glorious Sun Warlock rank powerhouses are enough to cause landslides, collapse continents, and sink continents of low-grade plains. It is because of this that the plane origin of low-level planes has restrictions on the strength of life forms of the plane, making it impossible for them to break through a certain limit. This is the self-protection mechanism of the plane origin at work. Only the Xianxia Plains main world can withstand a battle between Warlock Emperor rank powerhouses, so that the continent won't collapse from the fight between Warlock Emperor rank experts. There was a flash of regret in Yang Feng's eyes. It's a pity that we can't use Assembly's secret treasures. Otherwise, we would be able to gather everyone now. Assembly's secret treasures are secret treasures that can gather everyone when exploring a secret realm where random teleportation will occur. Such secret treasures are forbidden to be used in secret realms. If such secret treasures can be used, then rogue cultivators will have almost no chance to make a name for themselves. Warlock geniuses backed by major forces are much stronger than rogue cultivators to begin with. If they gather together to form a force, rogue warlocks will have no chance. At the Time Lord wanted to cultivate human warlock geniuses of the younger generation, not those from major warlock groups, which is why he set such a restriction. Yang Feng, that's Yang Feng. When the warlocks who were randomly teleported to a place not far from Yang Feng saw him, their faces changed dramatically, and they cast secret methods to escape in different directions. Once you enter this secret realm, everyone is an enemy. Everyone is shrouded in a magic barrier. Once the magic barrier is broken, you will be teleported out of the secret realm immediately. The warlock geniuses who are eager to obtain the key of time are naturally unwilling to be sent out by Yang Feng at the beginning. Yang Feng smiled, looked up, and trod on air, step by step, towards the sky. This is the limit. After all, this isn't the real world. When Yang Feng flew to an altitude of 3,000 meters, he felt a powerful magic barrier in the sky, preventing him from continuing to fly higher. Although this world looks no different from an ordinary world, but after all, it is a celestial body that has been refined by alchemy. In this celestial body, many phenomena are different from the real world. Yang Feng opened his eyes and operated the transcendent pupils. Countless runes appeared in his eyes and formed a pair of heart-shaking gold pupils. Thanks to the gaze of the transcendent pupils, the scenes within 1,000 kilometers of Yang Feng's eyes were captured. Not long after, a beam of light rose into the sky. Within the beam of light, there is a resplendent brilliance suspended. Inside the brilliance, there is a secret treasure in the form of a key inscribed with runes containing the mysteries of time. The key of time. Yang Feng's eyes lit up, and he took a step forward, entered space, and shuttled through one space after another towards the key of time. By shuttling through different spaces, Yang Feng crossed a distance of 10 kilometers every time he passed through a spatial gate. As if a god walking in space, he walked towards the key of time. With Yang Feng's current understanding of the law of space, a distance of 10 kilometers is already the limit for a spatial gate. After he promotes to an infinity warlock, he will be able to use the law of space to cross a distance of more than 10,000 kilometers through a spatial gate. Yang Feng. It's him. It's Yang Feng. When the warlocks around the key of time saw Yang Feng, their countenance changed dramatically. Many people clenched their teeth and fled into the distance. There are still some who are unwilling to give up and continued to fly towards the key of time. Spatial disorder. All of a sudden, streaks of space disruption flew into the sky from a hidden forest. Under the interference of the spatial disorder, the surrounding space became chaotic, the void distorted, and Yang Feng was forced to appear in the void. He glanced at the hidden forest below, and a cold ray streaked past his eyes. He spread the fingers of a hand, and wind blades formed from 9 revolutions divine wind suddenly erupted and slashed towards the forest below. Stop. Yang Feng, I am Qin Yu of the Great Cloud Dynasty's Qin family. We are both warlocks of the Great Cloud Dynasty, you can't do this to me. A roar of shock and anger came from the forest below, and a quasi-moonlight warlock flew out of the forest. A level 5 secret treasure in the form of a gold shield floated above the quasi-moonlight warlock and resisted the violent 9 revolutions divine wind. There was a flash of indifference in Yang Feng's eyes, and he pointed with a finger, and the wind blades formed from the 9 revolutions divine wind instantly formed a large wind blade that slashed at the gold shield and cut it in two. Chen Yu issued a heart-wrenching scream, "No, my gold glory shield." A level 5 secret treasure defensive shield is extremely important for Starry Sky warlocks. Yang Feng destroying Chen Yu's gold glory shield is equivalent to cutting off one of his arms. After the 9 revolutions divine wind cut through Chen Yu's golden glory shield, it took the opportunity to cut his body. A transparent membrane suddenly appeared and wrapped Chen Yu up, teleporting him out of the secret realm. Yang Feng grabbed the wreckage of the secret treasure gold glory shield, threw it into a storage ring, and flew towards the key of time. When the rest of the warlocks saw how fierce Yang Feng was, their faces changed dramatically, and they scattered, no longer daring to cast spells to stop Yang Feng. Yang Feng silently recited an incantation, and the 9 revolutions divine wind formed a pair of wings of wind behind him. With a flap of the wings of wind, a violent wind enveloped him, and he flew towards the key of time. At this moment, more than a dozen warlocks flew around the key of time and cast elemental spells, blood meridian metamorphosis, extraordinary plants, extraordinary life forms, and other spells. A dozen warlocks unleashed their own means and frantically fought over the key of time. Yang Feng is here. A voice suddenly sounded around the key of time, and the faces of the warlocks fighting suddenly flickered. They looked into the distance and saw Yang Feng riding a gust of wind flying towards them like a demon god. Chapter 542. Damn it, it's him. It's Yang Feng. The complexions of the dozen-plus warlocks changed dramatically, and their eyes filled with apprehension as they looked at Yang Feng flying over from afar. Without hesitation, 3 warlocks broke away from the battle and fled into the distance. A warlock suggested, "Let's first join forces to break the magic barrier of the Key of Time, and then compete for the Key of Time. Otherwise, we won't stand a chance against Yang Feng." The Key of Time is shrouded in a magic barrier, which is comparable to a level 6 defensive spell. However, the magic barrier doesn't have a steady stream of life force provided by moonlight warlocks. Even starry sky warlocks can wear down the magic barrier through continuous attacks and eventually break it. But let's do that. The remaining dozen or so warlocks also nodded slightly, agreeing with this warlock's proposal. They are all very smart people. After thinking for a while, they realized that they can't compete with Yang Feng on their own. Only by joining forces will they have a chance of winning. It's a good plan, but unfortunately, you're too weak. Spatial ripples surged around the dozen-plus warlocks, and spatial mirrors suddenly appeared and easily pulled the dozen-plus warlocks into the spatial mirrors. The space around Yang Feng rippled, and more than a dozen warlocks flew out of spatial mirrors that strangely appeared around him. Berserk wind blades formed from 9 revolutions. Divine wind swept towards the dozen-plus warlocks. Slashed by the berserk wind blades, the life force fields around the dozen-plus warlocks were shredded, and then they were teleported out of the secret realm. What a scary guy! Only when you really face him can you feel how scary he is. What a monster! When the warlocks peeking from the sidelines saw this scene, they felt a slight chill in their hearts, inhaled a mouthful of cold air, and fled in different directions. There are 108 keys of time. They don't want to be driven out of the secret realm by Yang Feng now. It feels good to be strong. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose into a smile. If not for his tyrannical strength, he would have to deal with the continuous sneak attacks of the warlocks. But now, as long as he appeared, those warlocks would retreat, not daring to fight him. Yang Feng looked up at the Key of Time shrouded in a barrier of light and punched the barrier of light. The barrier of light shattered, and Yang Feng grabbed the Key of Time. This is the Key of Time? The Key of Time contains the mysteries of the laws of time. When Yang Feng grabbed the Key of Time, he immediately felt a trace of the law of time flowing inside the Key of Time. If he hadn't studied the time text for a period of time, he wouldn't have noticed that the Key of Time contains the mysteries of the law of time. Yang Feng's eyes blossomed with a scorching light. Getting more keys of time will be of great benefit to my comprehension of the time text. The law of time was the most profound and incomprehensible law in the world, and it was even far superior to the law of space. In the countless years of research of the Xianxia Plains human warlocks, only the Time Lord has mastered the strongest secret method of time. In the era of the First Warlock Dynasty, there were countless human warlock supreme geniuses. Each of the 12 Holy Step Holy Spirit warlocks was extremely powerful. Even the 8th Warlock Dynasty's Dawn Lord may not be the opponent of the 12 Holy Step Holy Spirit warlocks. Before the Time Lord became a warlock emperor, his physique, alchemy, spirit force, and life force didn't hold any advantage over the 12 Holy Step Holy Spirit warlocks, and he was even at a disadvantage. However, the law of time was extremely mysterious. By relying on the mysteries of the time text, the Time Lord suppressed everyone and became the first human warlock emperor of the Xianxia Plain, becoming unparalleled in the world. After the death of the Time Lord, several human supreme geniuses of the Xianxia Plain comprehended the law of time from the time text and became almost invincible in the same rank. Yang Feng didn't comprehend the time text in order to fully master this secret method, but hoped to master a way to counter it by studying this secret method. If Yang Feng didn't know anything about the secret method of time, then he would be at a disadvantage against the user of this secret method in the future. Katrina was far weaker than Yang Feng, but she still almost defeated him because of the power and strangeness of the warlock secret method. Yang Feng flew into the sky with the Key of Time in his hand and unleashed the transcendent pupils to search for traces of the Key of Time. Suspended high in the sky, Cornell was surrounded by flickering stars that evolved into a world of stars, and boundless moonlight warlock rank might spread from him. Countless profound runes flashed in Cornell's eyes, and wisps of wisdom diffused from his eyes, making him look like an omnipotent transcendent full of wisdom. He stretched out his hand and pointed. rays of starlight shot out in all directions. A ray of light shone, and Angelico flew over from afar following the guidance of the starlight. He came to Cornell's side, looked at the starry world, and exclaimed in admiration, "Bajor astrology is really one of the most wonderful and mysterious secret methods. It can even be used in such a secret realm." Not long after, the Bajor warlock with a bare upper body engraved with strange runes flew over from afar and landed beside Cornell. After a while, Cresno and the other 3 supreme geniuses from the Bress dynasty as well as Ol and the other 3 supreme geniuses from the Cater dynasty were drawn here by the starlight. Although Almas, Ol, Angelico, and Katrina were seriously injured by Yang Feng at first, but within the past 2 days, they have recovered about 80% of their strength. After all, it wasn't a life and death battle in the arena, so Yang Feng didn't act ruthlessly. Otherwise, even if the 4 of them were lucky enough to escape, their soul origin would be damaged, and they wouldn't be able to recover in 2 days. The Cater dynasty's expert Brea, who had long silver hair and exuded a monarch's temperament, took a deep look at Cornell and said unhurriedly, "Bajor astrology is really extraordinary." A peculiar glint streaked past the eyes of the other supreme geniuses, and they took a deep look at Cornell as well. In fact, astrology was a branch of divination warlocks. Their battle prowess was very high, and the most frightening thing was that they could peer into the past and use countless materials to make predictions about the future. The past had already been determined and could not be changed. The future had countless branches. Some future branches could be changed, but the main branch of the river of the future was unshakable. Divination warlocks like astrology warlocks could peer into the future, which allowed them to seek good fortune and avoid calamity according to the evolution of the future. They were extremely difficult to kill, and at the same time, they reaped great benefits. Divination warlocks who practiced astrology had 2 weaknesses. The first was that they were a bit weaker than supreme geniuses of the same rank in terms of battle prowess. The second weakness was that whether it was peeking into the past or the future, it required a huge amount of resources and the lifespan of the caster. Therefore, these divination warlocks who practice astrology are basically short-lived ghosts. The 4th Warlock dynasty's Star Lord didn't break the destiny of divination warlocks. He only ruled the 4th Warlock dynasty for thousands of years before he died. He was the shortest-lived human warlock emperor. Even so, being enemies with a living divination warlock is also a very troublesome matter. Because as soon as a warlock with the prophecy system encountered danger, they would feel a sense of alarm. It was very difficult to force them into a situation of certain death. Cresno said solemnly, "Have you found Yang Feng's traces?" These supreme geniuses from the Western world were all proud and arrogant. Originally, they wouldn't act together. But in order to defeat Yang Feng, these supreme geniuses from the Western world finally put aside their pride and joined forces. Cornell's eyes flickered with runes formed from starlight, and he said indifferently, "I have found Yang Feng. He is in this direction, 9,000 kilometers away. I will be here, guiding you with the light of the stars." Brea's eyes shimmered with a gloomy gleam, and he uttered unhurriedly, "The 10 of us besieged Yang Feng. Even if we win, it will be a disgrace." Brea, Cresno, and the other 11 experts were peerless supreme geniuses of the Western world's 3 warlock dynasties who have formed a virtual world in the starry sky warlock realm. Each of them had their own pride, and they disdained to besiege others. But Yang Feng's strength was simply despair-inducing. Brea and the others had no choice but to abandon their pride and gather together to besiege Yang Feng. The Time Sky City was a place where the Time Lord cultivated the young generation of warlock geniuses. Every warlock genius who could enter the Time Sky City would obtain tremendous benefits. Yang Feng was already so strong that he was virtually invincible in the same rank. Brea and the other supreme geniuses didn't allow him to continue to grow. Otherwise, the gap in strength between them and Yang Feng would only widen in the future. Cresno's eyes flashed with determination and he uttered, "There is a proverb in the Eastern world, the winner is king and the loser is a bandit. As long as we win and enter the Time Sky City, the gap between us will only widen. Besides, we're doing this for the Western world. A monster like Yang Feng must not be allowed to grow. Otherwise, the Western world will once again be shrouded in the shadow of the Eastern world. Under the leadership of the Dawn Lord, the Western world finally escaped from the shadow of the Eastern world. We must not return to the era when the Eastern world controlled everything. Chapter 543. Before the emergence of the Dawn Lord, the Eastern world's human warlocks were the rulers of the Zhangji Plain. If the Western world hadn't given birth to several great holy steppe powerhouses and followed the 7 warlock emperors and made outstanding contributions, it would have been annexed a long time ago. Even so, in the era of the 7 warlock dynasties, the Eastern world's human warlocks were extremely proud. Many people called the Western world's human warlocks barbarians. This contempt made the Western world's human warlocks very dissatisfied. However, in the era of the 7 warlock dynasties, the Eastern world's human warlocks were extremely brilliant. They occupied countless planes, grasped countless secret methods, and grasped endless resources. The Western world's human warlocks could only endure. The emergence of the Dawn Lord allowed the Western world to develop rapidly and suppress the Eastern world's human warlocks. After the collapse of the Dawn dynasty, the Western world's 3 dynasties, which have been divided into 3, are still far stronger than the Great Cloud dynasty. This is all thanks to the Dawn Lord. Although the Western world's human warlocks will join forces with the Eastern world's human warlocks to resist the attacks of powerhouses from other planes, but they are absolutely unwilling to see the birth of a warlock emperor rank powerhouse in the Eastern world. After listening to Kresno's words, the supreme geniuses from the Western world fell silent and then nodded. If Yang Feng was only a little stronger than any of them, they wouldn't have made such a decision. Instead, they would rely on their own strength and efforts to find a way to surpass Yang Feng. But the strength Yang Feng displayed far exceeded that of the Western world's supreme geniuses, so they made the decision to contain Yang Feng. He's in this direction. The starlight turned into an arrowhead and flew towards Yang Feng. The figures of the 10 warlocks from the Western world fluttered, and they cast secret methods and turned into streams of light flying into the distance. Good luck! Looking into the distance, runes formed from starlight flashed in Cornell's eyes, and he frowned slightly. A look of worry flashed on his face, and he sighed slowly. I hope you can defeat that unimaginable monster. Yang Feng, who easily seized the 5th key of time, suddenly turned his head and looked into the distance, and his eyes flashed with excitement. Oh, they're here? 10 supreme geniuses from the Western world are here. Interesting, really interesting. This way, it won't be boring. In the Time City Competition Assembly, only Yuan Yang, the Saint Demon Sect's holy son, Kresno, and other geniuses who have formed a virtual world are qualified to fight Yang Feng. In Yang Feng's eyes, the rest of the warlock geniuses couldn't withstand a single blow and could be defeated at will. In the floating palace, there is a human infinity warlock sitting on a chair. If an infinity warlock goes to another plane, they can easily dominate a plane and rival strong divine force rank gods. Powerful life force fields diffused from the infinity warlocks, interwove and collided with each other, formed strange phenomena, and then disappeared. There are a total of 10 infinity warlocks sitting in the floating palace. 4 of them are from the Great Cloud dynasty, and the other 6 are from the Western world's 3 dynasties. Although the 10 infinity warlocks haven't fought, but their life force fields interwove and collided with each other, forming all kinds of strange phenomena. If it wasn't for the powerful purification force field in the floating palace, the life force they emitted would be able to kill all life forms below the level 1 warlock rank in an area 1,000 kilometers in radius. If an infinity warlock rank powerhouse wants to, they can easily blow up a grade 9 plane and kill countless life forms in it. They are such terrifying existences. The infinity warlocks releasing their life force fields without concealment is a kind of test for other infinity warlocks. Some newly promoted infinity warlocks can't accurately control their life force fields, and their life force fields will be suppressed by other infinity warlocks. The suppressed infinity warlocks are like soft persimmons among infinity warlocks, and will fall into a disadvantageous position. The life force fields of the 10 infinity warlocks interwove and intertwined, carrying out a battle that ordinary people can't imagine. Yet the outcome of the battle has yet to be decided. Clearly, the 10 Infinity Warlocks aren't soft persimmons. Without fighting for real, there is no way to decide the outcome of the battle. A man dressed in a scarlet-red robe looked at a huge crystal ball and snorted coldly. 10 people actually ganging up on one person. Is this how the Brest, Bajor, and catered dynasties do things? You've disgraced the warlocks. The huge crystal ball is a special crystal ball. Through the crystal ball, the Infinity Warlocks can clearly see the entire scene in the competition. The scene of the 10 Warlock Supreme Geniuses from the Western world besieging Yangfeng was naturally seen by the Infinity Warlocks. In the lobby of the Hidden Dragon Temple Hotel, although the Infinity Warlocks weren't present, but the battle between Yangfeng and Angelico couldn't be hidden from them. Seeing the 10 Warlock Supreme Geniuses from the Western world besieging Yangfeng, there was a flash of embarrassment in the eyes of the Infinity Warlocks of the 3 dynasties. A white-haired Infinity Warlock of the Brest dynasty, who looks like a sage, said lightly, "Zhang Yuele, this is just a spar between the younger generation. Fighting with numbers is a tactic in war. They know how to gather their strength to fight the enemy. I can only praise them for their intelligence." When we human warlocks fight powerful enemies from other planes, don't we often join forces to defeat them? The Zhangji Plains human warlocks are best at fighting together. With the help of secret treasures, several pinnacle bright world warlock rank powerhouses can even contend against a weaker junior Infinity Warlock rank freak. In the history of the Zhangji Plain, human warlocks have often joined forces and used secret treasures to defeat and seal many powerful existences. Zhang Yuele's eyes flashed with anger, and he said coldly, "Barbosa, you're twisting words and forcing logic. This competition is a trial run by the Time Lord to select the geniuses of the younger generation. This isn't a war with other races. In war, you can use any means, but in a trial run, fighting with numbers is too despicable." Among the 4 Infinity Warlocks of the Great Cloud Dynasty, a handsome man dressed in a green warlock robe, with 2 strokes of mustache above his lips said lightly, "Zhang Yuele, Barbosa is right. In this competition, there are no restrictions on joining forces. Fighting together is the foundation for us human warlocks to defeat powerful existences from other planes." Zhang Yuele's face sank, and he said coldly, "Yi Xuanlong, why are you speaking up for them?" Yi Xuanlong's gaze swept the crystal ball, and a cold ray streaked past his eyes, and he said flatly, "I'm just telling the truth." Inside the secret realm, Yangfeng operated the Battle Demon's secret method, and a set of white Battle Demon armor quickly covered his body. Then he pinched the ruler magic cube, and the ruler armor quickly covered his body. Kresno, Almas, and the other 11 supreme geniuses are quasi-moonlight warlocks who formed a virtual world. Their fighting strength is astonishing. Without the help of secret treasures, even someone as strong as Yangfeng will be defeated by them if he isn't careful. After equipping the ruler armor, Yangfeng operated the law of space, took a step, and stepped into a spatial gate. A spatial ripple surged beside Ol, and Yangfeng flew out of the spatial gate and slammed a fist into Ol. A strange membrane enveloped Ol and instantly teleported him out of the secret realm. Primal Chaos Finger. Yangfeng pointed with a finger at Almas, and a distorted beam containing the aura of primal chaos and annihilation shot out of his finger and stabbed Almas in the head. A strange membrane instantly devoured Almas and teleported him out of the secret realm. Both Ol and Almas were seriously injured by Yangfeng not long ago. They haven't recovered their full strength yet, which is why they were killed by Yangfeng's surprise attack. 9 Revolutions Divine Wind. Yangfeng spread the fingers of a hand, and violent 9 Revolutions Divine Wind turned into fearsome wind blades containing the law of wind that slashed towards the remaining 8 supreme geniuses. Eternal Holy Armor. Kresno silently chanted an incantation and pointed a finger. Rays of incomparably resplendent light enveloped his body, condensing into an eternal holy armor that covered his entire body. The Eternal Holy Armor is one of the strongest defensive secret methods of the Hall of Eternity. In terms of defensive power alone, It is above the battle demon's secret method. Moreover, the eternal holy armor can protect the soul of the caster and resist various illusions and soul attacks. In this respect, it is far superior to the battle demon's secret method. However, the eternal holy armor doesn't have the heaven-defying effect of the battle demon's secret method. When the 9 revolutions divine wind slashed Kresno's eternal holy armor, they collapsed, unable to injure him. Katrina's beautiful eyes shimmered with enigmatic light, then her figure fluttered, and she collapsed and disappeared, as if she disappeared from this space. Extraordinary courtyard. The eyes of Bruzoni from the Brest dynasty's warlock group Green Sea Forest shimmered coldly, and he silently recited an incantation, took out a wooden secret treasure engraved with countless mysterious runes, and pressed it against his heart. Countless dazzling green lights suddenly shone and formed a courtyard filled with countless strange and mysterious extraordinary plants in the void. An extraordinary plant wind stabilizing chrysanthemum bloomed, and its petals fluttered in the wind. The petals of the wind-stabilizing chrysanthemum curled up, and the 9 revolutions divine wind collapsed, and the wind elemental force inside was absorbed by the wind-stabilizing chrysanthemum. Chapter 544. Chipiko, a warlock from the Bajor dynasty's dark demonic mountain, who is engraved with queer runes and has a bare upper body, silently recited an incantation and swallowed a secret treasure evil ogre monarch bead. Light shone, and he turned into a 500-meter tall evil ogre monarch engraved with queer runes, exuding an ancient aura, a green face, 2 horns, and advanced moonlight warlock rank fluctuations of power. When the 9 revolutions divine wind turned into a wind blade, it cut open the evil ogre monarch's skin, and blood flowed out of the evil ogre monarch's body and scattered on the ground. A black aura swept out, and the injuries on the evil spirit king's body instantly healed. There were no traces of injury on his body. When Angelico released the Truth Empyrean imprint, the surrounding space distorted, and the wind blades entered the distorted space and disappeared. The warlock genius Correa from the Catered dynasty's elemental hand, with long crimson hair and an unruly expression, pointed with the level 6 secret treasure flame scepter in his hand, and elemental flames containing the law of fire gushed out and purified the 9 revolutions divine wind. At the same time, the elemental flames turned into a fire dragon that swept towards Yangfeng. Elemental warlocks specialize in elemental spells. Elemental spells can mobilize the various elemental forces of heaven and earth and erupt with elemental spells that are 10 times or even dozens of times more powerful than the caster. They are among the warlocks with the strongest defensive power. In terms of destructive power alone, they even exceed bloodline warlocks by far. The black-haired, green-eyed warlock hybrid beauty from the Catered dynasty's warlock group 6-star circle in Lin took out a secret treasure sea god trident. The law of water surged, and endless seawater suddenly surrounded her and formed a sea world. When the 9 revolutions divine wind blades slashed into the sea world, they cut open a large area of the seawater and then collapsed and dissipated. Brea, who came from the Immortal Hall, held a level 6 secret treasure, Dawnlight Scepter. A sacred and powerful aura emanated from his body. Light of dawn shot out from the Dawn Scepter and, as if it can purify all filth and evil in the world, shone on the wind blades. In the light of dawn, the wind blades formed from the 9 revolutions divine wind collapsed in an instant. In an instant, the 8 warlock supreme geniuses easily shattered the 9 revolutions divine wind Yangfeng cast. At the same time, elemental flames slammed into Yangfeng in a flash. Black whirlpools appeared in front of Yangfeng and sucked the elemental flames that can burn moonlight warlocks to ashes into the small world inside him. Countless devourers turned into a black swarm of mechanical bugs and pounced towards the elemental flames, devouring them frantically. Soon, the elemental flames were devoured and converted into high-energy crystals. Yang Feng's figure shook, and he instantly appeared in front of Angelico and Angelo, and red flames. Punches devoured insect giant gourd a flame sorry. Fire Angelo. Translated Horn, and Lin Continent Realm editor and spirit suddenly, magid, and venade warped. Yang red, a yang demon Saint God. Suddenly, a transparent membrane appeared, wrapped around Angelico, and teleported him out of the secret realm. When Yang Feng saw Angelico disappear, he revealed a smile, got rid of a troublesome guy. Angelico's truth Empyrean imprint can freely manipulate the power and innate abilities of the 9 transcendents. In a one-on-one fight, Yang Feng isn't afraid. But in a group fight, even if he is injured, his threat to Yang Feng is second only to Cresno and Brea. Die! Chipico's incarnation of the evil ogre monarch opened his maw, and a black beam containing the law of evil ogre shot towards Yang Feng. Void ancient vine. A cold look in his eyes, Bruzoni silently recited an incantation, and an extraordinary plant void ancient vine suddenly flew out, pierced into the void, and sealed the space. Void chains invisible to the naked eye suddenly appeared around Yang Feng. Even if a moonlight warlock wants to destroy the void chains, it will take them a split second. That split second is enough for the evil ogre monarch's all-out attack to hit the target. Yang Feng extended his right hand, and a huge black whirlpool suddenly appeared and swallowed the black beam fired by the evil ogre monarch in an instant, and then sent it into his small world. After all, the evil ogre monarch was an advanced moonlight warlock rank extraordinary life form. Even with the ruler armor and the battle demon armor weakening most of its power, but it still injured Yang Feng a little. The black beam fired by the evil ogre monarch slammed into Yang Feng's small world, sent the devourers rushing at him flying, and finally slammed into the world ring. The world ring trembled slightly, and then collapsed, and the remaining power was devoured by the devourers. Yang Feng's figure fluttered, and he slammed into the void chains like a meteor. Countless sharp blades ejected from the ruler armor and cut the void chains, and he flew towards the evil ogre monarch like a meteor. Absolute freeze. Inlin's beautiful eyes shimmered coldly, and she pointed at Yang Feng with the sea god trident. A blue aura containing the law of ice surged out of the sea god trident. The blue aura faintly carried a trace of the terrifying aura of an ancient god, as if the ancient god that controlled the law of ice was slowly awakening and releasing a trace of his aura. Wherever the blue aura passed, everything would be frozen into ice. It was as if a long road of ice and snow extended towards Yang Feng. Yang Feng didn't pay any attention to the blue aura. When the blue aura approached him, huge whirlpools suddenly appeared and attempted to devour it. When the blue aura hit the huge whirlpool, it froze together with Yang Feng. Shit, my judgment was wrong. The power of absolute freeze unleashed by Inlin is too strong. It exceeds the limit of my devour transmission. A terrifying ice-cold aura continued to extend, as if wanting to freeze Yang Feng's soul, causing him to be slightly startled. Originally, Yang Feng planned to devour the blue aura, but the power of the blue aura exceeded his expectations by far. He miscalculated and was frozen. Eternal Holy Spear. Cresno pointed at Yang Feng with the level 6 secret treasure Eternal Holy Spear engraved with countless mysterious runes, and the Eternal Holy Spear turned into a stream of light stabbing towards Yang Feng. The Eternal Holy Spear art was a strange magic art that contained a trace of the law of karma. The execution of this magic art was extremely harsh, and cultivating it was also extremely difficult. But once it is launched, the Eternal Holy Spear will hit the enemy. No matter what evasive spells or spatial spells you use, you can't avoid the attack of the Eternal Holy Spear. Because after the spell is launched, it is destined to hit the enemy. Even Warlock Emperor rank powerhouses who aren't proficient in the law of karma can't destroy this karma spell. 7-color Skyfire. All of a sudden, a violent 7-color Skyfire broke out. Wind, fire, water, and earth elemental particles rapidly transformed, and violent fire elemental particles entered the 7-color Skyfire. The 7-color Skyfire erupted in an instant and burned the ice encasing Yang Feng, and the violent law of fire burned a large hole in the ice. Inlin was taken aback, and her beautiful eyes shimmered with a dignified shade. What a scary guy. The virtual world inside him is so powerful, I'm afraid it's more than twice as powerful as my virtual world. Absolute Freeze is a powerful ice-type spell in Lin released with the help of the secret treasure Sea God Trident. She is very confident that once an advanced Moonlight Warlock is sealed in ice, they won't be able to escape. But now, Yang Feng had forcibly broken this spell. Yang Feng's strength once again filled her heart with shock. Primal Chaos Annihilation Fist. Just after shattering the weird ice force, Yang Feng had to face the Eternal Holy Spear. His eyes flashed with enigmatic light, and he frantically extracted World Force from the World Ring and sent a fist containing Primal Chaos and Annihilation barreling into the Eternal Holy Spear. Primal Chaos Force erupted in an instant and sent the Eternal Holy Spear flying. A huge bloody hole appeared on Yang Feng's right hand, and a steady stream of blood flowed out of the huge bloody hole and dripped to the ground. If it wasn't for the protection of the Ruler Armor and the Battle Demon Armor, Yang Feng's right hand would have been pierced through and crippled. To break a karma spell like the Eternal Holy Spear, you can only clash head-on and destroy or blast the Eternal Holy Spear away with absolute power. Cresno was slightly shocked. To be able to blast my Eternal Holy Spear away, amazing! Since Cresno cultivated the Eternal Holy Spear, he has been able to inflict heavy damage to the enemy once he successfully cast the spell. He had never failed before, and this was the first time he had failed. After blasting away Cresno's Eternal Holy Spear, Yang Feng pressed the dimensional badge on his chest, and light shone, and thousands of starry sky rippers suddenly flew out and flew towards the remaining 7 Warlock Supreme Geniuses along with the rumbling of engines. Without the help of external forces, Yang Feng may really be defeated by the 7 Warlock Supreme Geniuses if he is careless. A bunch of ant-like mechanical golems. Elemental Fire. Correa pointed at the starry sky rippers with the flame scepter in his hand, and elemental fire instantly split into countless fireballs barreling towards the starry sky rippers. Hit by the fireballs of elemental fire, the starry sky rippers burned wildly and exploded in midair. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.